And life is like a journey, isn't it? Well, it is a journey. And if we're on a train, then sometimes on our journey we have to go through tunnels. And it's okay if the lights of the train are on and we can see. But if in the middle of a dark tunnel and the lights go off, then we're not really sure what's going on. There's an uncertainty. There in fact can be a fear. And we hope that there's nothing on the track and all is well and we get out the other side. But sometimes life is not as simple as that. And it wasn't for the family that we look at this morning. And we'd like to look at the story of Lazarus and family in John chapter 11. And death pervades the chapter. In verse 2, we hear of Mary who anoints Jesus' feet. Now that incident doesn't happen until chapter 12. So John's just putting it in and saying, a marker. This is for Jesus' death. Then Lazarus dies. And then when they go into Jerusalem, the disciples know that there's danger for Jesus, and Thomas says, I'll go with you to die. Death. He was prepared to die. We know him as Doubting Thomas, but this is the one with courage, who faced reality and said, I'll go. I'll be with you. And later on in the chapter, we hear about the council of the chief priests, and they meet together and they say, we can't be doing with this. We've got to have this man dead. And of course, chapter 11 follows chapter 10, which is about the good shepherd. And 3 times in there, Jesus says, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Death pervades the chapter. And so they made plans to put him to death. But in it all, we've got a trust in his Father that all this is working out for good. Even in the darkness of the tunnel, it's working out for good. So this morning, we're going to look at purposeful suffering. Funny old phrase, but I couldn't think of a better one. Purposeful suffering. We're going to look at how God allows suffering. We're going to look at how God uses suffering. We're going to look at how God is our hope in suffering. And lastly, we can trust this God in the suffering. In the tunnel. In the darkness, in the unknown. God allows, God uses, God is our hope, and he most certainly is our trust because of who he is. So John chapter 11, that's where we're going. Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her long hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent to him, saying, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, this illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then after this he said to his disciples, let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you. Are you going there again? Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, but because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. After saying these things, he said to them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to waken him." The disciples said to him, "Lord, if he's fallen asleep, he'll recover." Now Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought that he meant taking rest in sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, "Lazarus has died. And for your sake, I'm glad that I was not there so that you may believe. But let us go to him." So Thomas, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let us go that we may die with him." Now when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and to Mary to console them concerning their brother. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, but Mary remained seated in the house. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." And Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord. I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world." When she said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in private, "The teacher's here. He's calling for you." When she heard it, she rose quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Now when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying, "Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and greatly troubled. And he said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus wept. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying?" Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, by this time there'll be an odor, for he's been there dead for 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you've heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me." When he said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen stripes, and his face wrapped with a cloth. And Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. So reads the word of God. God allows suffering. I expect that Martha and Mary would have expected Jesus to come. And that's just like us, isn't it? We put a penny in the slot, pull the machine, and we expect everything to work out as we expect. But this wasn't an unanswered prayer. When they said, will you come? This wasn't unanswered. This was a chosen delay. He chose not to go. There's a so, there's a therefore in it. No accident. This wasn't malicious, this wasn't capricious, this wasn't spiteful, this is God working his purposes out. Because God allows suffering. And when Martha arrived, he gave no explanation. No explanation why he delayed. But the reality is, it says he loved Lazarus. Then it says he loved the three of them. And then there's a comment by the bystanders saying, this is the man he loved. Couldn't he have healed him? And the reality for them was loss, disappointment, hurt, possibly questioning. And God doesn't need to explain himself. Doesn't need to explain what he's doing, why he's doing. He's not explaining how he does it. He's asking us to trust him, knowing his character, knowing who he is. And God uses suffering. There is purpose in it. The world would say we shouldn't have suffering, we should be happy, we should be this, that, and the other. Because they can't see that there could possibly be purpose in suffering. But the God of the universe turns things upside down. Topsy-turvy. And amazingly, in verse 15, he says to the disciples, 14, Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus has died. And then he adds, and for your sake, I'm glad I was not there. That's amazing. Here's Jesus with the disciples. Here's Lazarus dead. And he is saying, for your sake, somebody else is suffering. This is for your sake. It's amazing. Can you get your head around that? I'm not sure I can. We think of suffering on an individual basis. And here Jesus is saying something quite different. He's saying, for your sake, I'm glad I wasn't there. He's not saying he's glad about the suffering. But in his purpose, he says, I'm glad I wasn't there. Why? He says, so that you may believe. Wow. You think of the people that we know who are suffering or have suffered, and the effect that it has had on you, never mind them, as it were, but the effect it's had on you. You see them holding on or not holding on, but God holding them. And recently we've watched, I've spoken of Kaz before. She's the young mum with the 7-year-old and the 4-year-old, where the prognosis is death. And she's had some awful chemo. She's had another lot this last Tuesday. And at her church, they had an evening service, and the title was Unanswered Prayer. And she very courageously shared her testimony. For her, at the minute, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. She's facing death. Her husband's facing death. Her children are facing her death. Her mum died of cancer not long ago. They've saved her brother from cancer. And in the video, she's very, very honest. And she says, I've got a friend in London who's got cancer. She's healed. Why not me? Why not me? And she said something like, 4 months ago, I was holding on to God, And she said, since then, it's got so bad, so awful. And she said, I no longer can hold on to God. But she said, I know that he holds me. I haven't got the wherewithal to hold. But he has got the wherewithal to hold her, to hold you, to hold me. And to his disciples, he says, verse 4, he says, this illness is not for death, this particular one. This is for the glory of God. Your life and my life, somehow or other, are for the glory of God. In the midst of all the awfulness, in the midst of the dark tunnel. Jesus didn't even send an answer to them, or at least it's not recorded, when they said, will you come? And he stayed. No answer, no message going back. And Martha came to him. Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, whatever you ask God, God will give you. And Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. And she, believing as the Jews did, they would rise on the last day. She said, I believe that he will rise again in the resurrection of the last day. But Jesus gave that famous answer. He said, I am the resurrection and the life. It's not in a book, precious though this is. It's not in a religion, it's not in a church, it's in me. I am. It's me. In my person. It's me you look to. It's me you're going to need to trust. Because I'm the resurrection. Chapter 10, when he says, lay down my life for the sheep. Third time he says, and I have authority to take it up again. He's the one with the authority over life and death. And he goes on to say, whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. It's in him. But then he says to her, as he says to us, do you believe this? Really, do you believe this? That in the midst of the loss, in the midst of death, in the midst of the dark tunnel, Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. He who came from above, came down, returning to Father. I am the resurrection and the life. And she said, yes, Lord. I believe that you're the Christ, the Son of God who's coming into the world. Oops. There's hope in suffering. And we know that faith, hope, and love go together. And he loves this family. And when we're in difficulty, sometimes we can think, does he still love me? Does he still care? But he does. Even if he waits, he loves. And he says, have you got faith? Because you're going to need hope. You're going to need hope. Hope in the certainty because of who he is and where he's going. Because there is no hope outside of him. Because only he is the resurrection. Only he is the life. And in the suffering, he sees them weeping. And then the amazing thing is, shortest verse in the Bible, you probably know, he wept. We have a God who's compassionate. It's not recorded, but I found when I was gripped with this, The anguish and the suffering that Jesus must have gone through while he waited, knowing that his friends whom he loved were going through loss, disappointment, hurt, death. What did he feel? When you're going through it, when I'm going through it, what does he feel? He wept. They wept. He wept. You weep. He weeps. And then he weeps with us in our waiting, in our loss. And he's deeply moved, presumably at seeing their loss, their pain, their discomfort. And then he's told, look, this body's been in the tomb 4 days, decay, smell, awful. And Jesus simply said in verse 40, did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? But what do you see when there's no miracle? What do you see when there's no answer? What is it that Kaz sees? And if the Lord doesn't intervene, either through medicine or sovereignly, and heals her, where's the glory for her? It's at the end of the tunnel. It's the other side of death for her. Where is the glory for her husband Jack and the children? Somehow or other, it's with God being with the family. Somehow or other, it is God supporting the family. That as they weep, he weeps. As they hope, he hears. And so we're asked to trust God in the suffering. I've only ever done this once. Well, that's not quite abseiling. Absolutely terrified. It kept saying, lean over, it's easy. And in the tunnel, it's not easy, is it? And if we're hanging over, it's not easy. And if you can't hold on to the person at the top, you're hoping that the person on the top's got hold of you. And Kaz, in her difficulty, knows he's got hold of her. And if you're a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ, then he's got hold of you. He's got hold. And notice Jesus was in no rush to get there. He had time to have a conversation with Martha. We're not told there was a conversation with Mary, but we've got the conversation with Martha. And sometimes in our struggle, he takes time for you to have a conversation with him and he to have a conversation with you. But sometimes we're in too much of a rush, aren't we? He delayed. She had to go to him. Mary, Jesus is calling you. She had to go to him. He could have gone straight there. But no. He was waiting for them to come to him. In the loss, in the disappointment, in the suffering, in the questions. Is he waiting for you and I to go to him in whatever part of the track we're on, whether it's in the tunnel or not? Is he waiting for you and I to go to him? Because there's light at the end of the tunnel. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And there's light because he allows suffering. There's light because he uses suffering. There's light because there's hope in suffering. And there's light at the end of the tunnel because we can trust him on the journey. Trust him on the journey. Whether we understand it, irrelevant. though we like to understand it, irrelevant. God says, will you trust me? So where are we? On the journey? Do we feel that we're going through the countryside and all is lovely and the sun is shining above and we see all the beauty? Or do we find ourselves in the middle of a tunnel? Or do we find ourselves having to begin to go into the tunnel? Oh, bless God, do we find ourselves coming out of the tunnel? But no matter where we are on the journey, we know the ultimate destination, and we know He'll hold us and get us there. Let's pray.